So 2 years ago, we have some fluctuating time for the transaction value. At that time, we see a large number of newly published companies. With these 2 years, the investors are getting a little bit frustrated. You have just mentioned that for the 2 share, one of them is actually 3 times above the offering price. At that time, we have a lot of investors coming to here to buy stock, and it is very difficult to buy the share. But how long it lasts for that scenario? It lasts for around 2 to 3 months. So after half a year, people started to cool down and stop buying the shares. My question is why it happens. Because at that time, you have just mentioned we have just reached at the peak for the transaction value. Well, I would say it is because of the economic development of Myanmar for these 2 years. Even though the new government wants to issue new policies, but when they are adjusting the policies, we still see a lot of conservative terms. Even though the Myanmar market wants to open up, but still we see some problems that cannot be fixed overnight. Sometimes we have some chat with the local government officers. They are saying that in terms of attracting the foreign capital, Myanmar government would like to open up more JVs, but the market still is not fully opening up to the foreign investors. And today, Myanmar Stock Exchange allows foreign investors to join the market. In theory, from the policy standpoint, we will see the market is opening up to the foreign investors. But at the tactical level, we still see some obstacles and challenges. Because for some of the foreign investors, they're still not able to purchase the share or the stock in Myanmar market. And for some of the foreign investors, they have to obtain a residence permit in order to purchase a share. And another limitation is that the foreign investors need to acquire certain kind of certificate or qualification in order to purchase the share, and they can also purchase limited amount of share. So still, the Myanmar government have to issue more defined terms in order to allow foreign investors to buy stock in the Yangon Stock Exchange. And according to the statistics, we do not see a big increase for the transaction amount. But I understand that the Myanmar government must have a positive attitude in attracting the foreign investor. But now we don't see any expectation being fulfilled. So can you give more comment on that? In the past few years, we have keep closely attention to this issue, and we will also publish a series of articles in relation to this concern. And in attracting the foreign investments, we think it takes time for them to get used to the Myanmar markets. And we think there is a process to transform the capital. And for the foreign investors, they have to understand the local markets. In the past 2 years, the Yangon Stock Exchange, they also give some like basic education to the investors. So my understanding is that it takes time to cultivate a large group of qualified shareholders. That's right. Just like if you want to fish, you build a fish tank, you have abundant fishes, but still you need a lot of people who want to fish in order to make profit. For the Yangon Stock Exchange, it is quite young. And for the largest stock exchange market, they are actually in the United States. And the value accounts for around 2.8 billion US dollars, followed by China and some major Asian countries. And for Europe, UK, and France, they will also have a very large stock exchange market. For Yangon Stock Exchange market, if we talk about the rankings, probably it rank number 6. Even Thailand is much better than what we did. So we have to give some time for the development for the Yangon Stock Exchange in Myanmar. We are still at a preliminary stage. Can you give us more introduction about the preliminary stage of the Yangon Stock Exchange market? And for the stock exchange market, it was first appeared in UK. But at that time, due to some objective limitations, there were limited transactions happened. So for Yangon Stock Exchange market, it is the same situation. In the past 2 years, every day we can only complete 2 to 3 times of transaction and exchange, and we gradually increase the times of trading. Now I have a list. I understand that there were only 5 shares that was offered by Yangon Stock Exchange. FMI, which is the first share that was published on the Yangon Stock Exchange. And I can see the change of the offering price throughout the years. This one is in May. You can see at the lowest point, it hit 11,000 kyat. I want to ask, what is the opening price, the initial price? At that time is 12,000 kyat. So meaning that in May, they are trading at less than the offering price because it is only 11,000 kyat. If you talk about the local currency, yes, it is traded at less than the offering price, but we also have to consider the foreign market. But if we compare to the local currency, yes, for this share, it is traded at less than the offering price. So what about the highest price? The highest price is around like 36,000 kyat. But within half a year, the price has been dropped to 11,000. And we just talked about the first stock, and this is the second stock that was being listed on the Yangon Stock Exchange. This is the MTSH. we can see that in May, this has been dropped to 2,900, which is a very low price. What is the opening price? The initial price is around 30,000, I believe. So we can see that still this share has been dropped drastically. But for this share, it used to rise up to 70,000. However, when it reached 70,000, we have divided this share into 10 sub-shares. So the change is less than from 70,000 drop to 2,000, as it has been divided into 10 shares. So each one of them only worth 7,000. So we can see there is a drop of 5,000 kyat. We divide the share into 10 portions. Actually, it is beneficial for small size investors, but still we cannot see the recovery of this share. This is the second one. Now let's take a look at the third share. I think this one is from a bank. Why we see dotted lines? Well, actually, we have started trading this share for several times. And for this share, it is not listed. It is partially listed on the Yangon Stock Exchange. So what is the official price? For the initial price is around 7,000 to 8,000 kyat. So, but for this one, it's relatively stable in the price. And for the bank, it's relatively stable. But for the overall economy in Myanmar, the investors feel less confident about this share. For this bank, it is not even ranked as top 10 in Myanmar. Let's take a look at the fourth one. And this one is also from a bank. It is a private bank. We can see that at some point it has a big increase in price, but later on it experienced a big fluctuation. This is relatively a smaller size of the exchange. Let's look at the big screen. The local time is 12:59 p.m. And each day, the Yangon Stock Exchange will have 4 times of transaction, and pretty soon we will approach to the next stock exchange, which is at 1 p.m. local time. And we can see the comprehensive index has been dropped by 8%. So let's wait and see the next transaction. Well, we already see the transaction is coming in. We're waiting for the closing for today's transaction. On the screen, we can see some flashing lights. Now we're waiting for the next transaction. Well, I don't see much changes for the results. So on the right side, actually it listed all the 5 shares that has been transacted at Yangon Stock Exchange. You can see FMI have been dropped by the 500 and the second one up by 50. So in general, the comprehensive index has been dropped by 8 points. So not much change compared to the morning situation. Well, some of the statistics to be updated later. At 1 p.m., the transaction has been completed, but for the data, it still takes some time for us to upload this information. Let's take a look at the lobby. It's quite empty in the Yangon Stock Exchange. Very few shareholders waiting here. It is quite empty here. And for the electric scoring, show real-time changes for the share. Well, still I can see no change for the overall index. We have to wait for a bit to get the final number. And for the shareholders in Myanmar, they don't necessarily come to the stock exchange center to get the latest information. They can actually check their mobile phone to get the latest information. But still, in terms of the total volume and the total value, I don't see big changes. Under such circumstances, actually, it is a good news for the foreign investors because there are huge room for improvement in the future. If we open up for foreign investors, maybe more and more foreign investors would like to buy a share. Because currently, the pool is quite limited for the foreign investor. Even though they invest limited amount of capital, probably they can enjoy a higher return. Let's continue to see other shares that was listed on the Yangon Stock Exchange. This is the third one. So for this one, it has been listed for less than 1 year. But if you can see the unit price for each share, it is relatively higher compared to other shares. So the price is above 20,000 cards. However, it has a lot of fluctuations throughout the month. And the next is a telecom share. We consider that as a black horse because this one is not one of the earliest share that would be listed on Yangon Stock Exchange. This is actually a joint venture between China and Myanmar. As we all know that the telecommunication industry has been developed very fast, so we do see a very bright prospect for this share. And the offering price is around 3,000. So according to this graph, we don't see much problems for this share. The reason why this company choose to be publicly traded because they want to do more financing. So we think there are huge potential for the Yangon Stock Exchange.
缅甸股市的这个情况，我们也联系了一位就是在驻缅甸的中资银行的一位金融专家的一个
And today, with the new Myanmar Companies Law, which allows foreign investors to trade at the YSX, we have also consulted one of the experts. For some reasons, he cannot come here, but he write out some of his comments.
加大对外开放的一个积极信号，然后呢，也会让更多有经验的投资者来参与这个市场，来
He said that with the new policy, it will further open up the market of Myanmar and also bring vitality to Myanmar's market. But on the other side, he's saying that there is a limited force for the Myanmar's market, and also there are a lot of foreign exchange restrictions in Myanmar market. And this will also pose challenges and setbacks for the Myanmar's market, as well as the development of the Yangon Stock Exchange. But still, it takes some time to see whether it is a good or bad news for the Yangon Stock Exchange. Now we can see the market has been closed for Yangon Stock Exchange. So after a few minutes after 1 p.m., and then the stock exchange closed for Myanmar today. So we just have a very quick introduction to understand the Myanmar Yangon Stock Exchange. And pretty soon, the Myanmar's government will issue more detailed regulations to allow foreign investors to trade on the exchange. I believe many foreign investors are interested about the stock market in Myanmar. So they have to stay cautious about the market. As I'm also a Chinese, and I know you will release this information to Chinese citizens. My comment is that for Chinese investors, actually, it is a good news. Because at this stage, I would say the transaction value of kyat has dropped to a lowest point. Because the exchange rate for kyat, the local currency, is really low. So I think it is a good time for investors to trade on the Myanmar Stock Exchange. However, currently, we don't see a lot of detailed regulations. And in Myanmar, we have a lot of stock exchange centers. Some of them cooperate with other countries, but none of them are cooperated with China. So, under such circumstances, I think there may be some risk for Chinese investors to enter the Myanmar's market. And I wish in the future it will be easily to exchange RMB with the kyat. I've been noticed that there will be enhanced economic exchange between Myanmar and China. And we are accelerating the process for the currency exchange between RMB and kyat. And now we're still waiting for the Yangon Stock Exchange that allows the foreign investors to trade on the exchange. With further opening up of the Myanmar market, we will give you more